Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested by a viewer. Thanks to Flo for this one. Amy puts the 1000th time counter on the Millennium calendar, triggering its last ability. Nick doesn't want to lose 1,000 life, so he uses Tishana's Tidebinder against that ability. Is the Millennium calendar sacrificed? Does Nick lose life? Well, this is a really interesting question, and the fact that I'm leading off by saying that rather than something like, of course not, are you crazy, might be a little bit of a spoiler as to what the answer is. So let's take a close look at what's going on here and see what the catch is. Now, if you play Legacy, you might already know that you can't stifle the Dark Depths trigger. Or, to put it more precisely, you can, but it won't have the desired outcome. The reason is because after you counter the Dark Depths ability, it will still have no ice counters on it, so the ability would just trigger again. But if you really think about it, it seems like we might be missing part of the puzzle here. After all, the Dark Depths also had no ice counters on it before the Stifle resolved, so why wouldn't that ability trigger again at that time? Or, hey, it didn't have any ice counters before the Stifle was cast, so how come the ability didn't trigger there too? Well, as you might have guessed, there is a reason why Dark Depths doesn't just endlessly trigger, not giving any players a chance to cast spells after it loses all its ice counters. Normal triggered abilities trigger anytime the game matches their trigger condition, but abilities that trigger on a game state existing rather than an event happening in the game have this special rule. Once a state trigger triggers, it cannot trigger again until the original one resolves, is countered, or otherwise leaves the stack. Now with that set, we're ready to bring the Tishana's Tidebinder back into the equation. The last important fact that we'll need to answer this question is that the instructions of a spell or ability, if they include multiple sentences, each sentence is a discrete step in that spell or ability's resolution. This means that when resolving Tishana's Tidebinder's ability in the situation from the original problem statement, the first thing that happens is the Millennium calendar's ability gets countered. Then, after that, the Millennium calendar loses all of its abilities. Do you see the problem? Recall that countering an ability removes it from the stack, meaning that immediately after that happens, the Millennium calendar's state trigger is free to trigger again. It is true that no player would get priority during the gap in between when these two instructions are performed, but triggered abilities do not need priority to trigger. They trigger anytime their trigger event happens, and wait until a player would get priority in order to go on the stack. I talked about another related scenario in my video on Marrow plus Winds of Change. To close out, let's walk through the official sequence of events for this play. First, Tishana's Tidebinder counters the Millennium calendar's state trigger. Then, because the Millennium calendar still has 1,000 time counters, and that state trigger is no longer on the stack, it'll trigger again. Then the Millennium calendar will lose all of its abilities. After that, the Tishana's Tidebinder ability has finished resolving, meaning that the game will put the Millennium calendar's ability onto the stack. Note that by this time, the Millennium calendar has no abilities, meaning that if Nick were able to use a Stifle or maybe another Tishana's Tidebinder to counter this second instance of the state trigger, he really would get to live. But failing that, he's going to lose 1,000 life. I'll leave it as an exercise to the viewer to determine whether Nick could get the same favorable result if he used a momentary blink to flicker his Tishana's Tidebinder in response to the second trigger. But that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.